Hello folks and welcome. So Debian 12 Bookworm Xfce desktop. A subscriber requested a video on Debian 12 how to do archiving and compression on an external hard drive. I'll carry that even further and talk about USB sticks can be done the same way. USB sticks and or thumb drive, whatever name you want to give that. External devices. So I'm going to be talking about some tools that are available in your file manager, Thunar. Now on some of these Xfce desktops, these tools behave a little differently. That's why sometimes I do multiple videos even though it's on the same desktop. Xfce for instance. Alright, so Debian 12 Bookworm, Xfce, and you can see my hardware here. You're watching this on Linux for Seniors. This is just a watermark. If you can see this circle down here roughly in the corner, very right hand corner, you can click to subscribe to Linux for Seniors. Over 260 plus videos and all kinds of, well, tips and tricks. My motto has always been Linux is for any age, but the name of my channel is Linux for Seniors. If you do not see that circle down here, then go find me on YouTube. Alright, so let me talk about the file manager. So again, Thunar can be found on just about every Xfce desktop environment there is, but sometimes they have different tools and they also have different settings. This is no exception. So this is 4.18.4 and I'm going to talk about backup tools and compression. All the tools are available to you in here. So I'm also going to talk about this USB connected hard drive. It's a solid state hard drive, 200 plus gigs. For backing up certain files. Now, your Synaptic Package Manager has lots of software that you can download. You can download software to format either USB sticks or USB connected hard drives. This one happens to be formatted with FAT32, File Allocation Table 32. Alright, so GNOME Disk Utility is what I used. But more importantly, you can download different tools to format your USB connected hard drives. And also depending on how you format those, it depends on which machine you can view that on. I'm talking about Linux, Microsoft, and Macs. I'll tell you what this is formatted a little bit later. So Sam is our user for today. Sam has currently nothing in his backup folder. However, Sam has a bunch of files. So I'm going to show you everything that you need to have here in Thunar to make backups. And the backup that I'm going to first use is tar, not the type that's on your road, but tape archive. Tar has been around for many years. It's been around since the Unix days, and I've been around computers for over 40 years. So I'm going to use tar as my first example and show you how quickly you can do this. So I'm going to use Control A, which selects everything. Okay, so you can basically just follow along here. Select all files. So you also have hidden files in here, Control H, which I'm not going to bother copying. So just so you know, there's more than just regular files that are in here. By, normal users also have hidden files and folders. But I'm going to just copy what I can see on the screen right now inside of my file manager, Thunar. All right, Control A. I'm going to right click on any one of these things. It doesn't matter which one, and create an archive. Now, as I pointed out when I started this video, some of these tools behave a little bit differently, and some of the selections are also different on some other Linux distributions that use Thunar and Xfce desktop. To give you an example, the .7z you will find on some systems with passwords and sometimes encrypting file lists. Same thing goes with zip. But I'm going to start with tar. Tar is tape archive, but I'm going to change the name of this if you don't mind. I'm going to call this my stuff. I guess I could have called it Sam's stuff because Sam is our user for today. So whenever you do this, I do recommend dates. So I'm going to use 11/12 as today's date. And we'll put a 23 in there. So that way you know how old the file is just by staring at it. And it's done. It's that quick. And you're probably thinking there's no files in here. Well, let's take a peek. Well, that's 392 megabytes worth of stuff that I just threw into a box real quick. So a lot of people call this a tar ball. I call it a tar box. is in this case, because it looks like a box of eggs, but whatever icon that you have. But this tar ball or tar box contains everything that I had selected earlier. All the files are in here. And as I pointed out, depending on the distribution that you're working with, some of these tools are slightly different. This is Xarchiver. And if you decide to use this, I would also recommend Action, Preferences, selecting Sort Archive by File Name. This is normally off. Okay. You can also change the preferred to whatever you want. If you want it to always bring up tar, you can certainly do it that way. You got that so far? Okay. I'm going to take this tar box or tar ball and throw it in backups because there's currently nothing in there, as you can see. Now I'm going to talk about something that never happens to anyone, especially folks like myself that have been around computers for over 40 years. I never delete a file by accident. Well, I beg to differ. I've done it many times. Many times. All right, so I'm going to use a picture for this example. I'll use one JPEG. So maybe one JPEG is a picture of an old friend of mine, maybe my grandchild, or maybe some important picture. Either case, I'm going to delete it by accident. So one JPEG is now in trash. So I'm going through my trash here, and I just wanted to quickly dump this because I'm getting a little cluttered and I don't notice that. So a week later, Sam, or whatever user you have, realizes that one JPEG is possibly in the trash, but the trash has been emptied. Well, is it Casper the Ghost? Actually not. So Sam was smart enough to make a tar backup. So you can also use, let me stop for a second. You can also go to Synaptic Package Manager and download, well, different backup tools. Lucky Backups comes to mind as one of those, and it uses rsync, remote sync. I have plenty of videos also on rsync and grsync if you're curious, including for advanced folks that want to do rsync with script files. I have all those kind of videos on my YouTube site if you look for them. But more importantly, Sam now has a tar box or a tar ball. So what's in the box? Well, all my files, or all of Sam's files that he copied, are in here. Okay. If you want me to expand it, I will. It even gives me the permissions. But more importantly, what I'm looking for is the one JPEG. And this is how it's sorted. It starts with 1 and then it goes to 2s and etc. So this is all I needed. I don't need to extract all of them. I just want one item. So one JPEG it is. And I'll close the box. And then I'm going to right click and cut it, or Sam is. We're pretending we're Sam. And paste. That's one example. All right, so I have 2 folders complete with files in them. Another folder complete with files and some other files. Some things are not worth compressing, but you can certainly archive anything. And I'll talk about maybe some of the files that you may want to think about, like the joint photographic group files. All right, I'm going to select all of these by dragging a line. I'm using a standard tower computer with a standard keyboard and mouse, not a touchpad. Control A. That does the same thing. Select all, in other words. You'll find these commands right here. Okay, very common commands, keyboard commands. I've talked about these many times on different distributions also. Right click, create an archive. First one I'm going to do is tar. You remember when I selected that earlier? Now it doesn't default to 7 zip, it defaults to tar. So again, you can choose to do that rather easily. All right, we are dealing with the downloads folder, so I'm just going to call this one downloads 1. What's in a name? You could also put a date if you like, but I'm just going to omit that for right now, but I did recommend that earlier. So I'm going to use tar for this first pass. And that closed inadvertently. Let's reopen that. That's okay. It's probably saved anyways. It is. And let's take a peek. Let's see if it's in there. Yeah, everything's in there. So we're good to go. All right, I'm going to right click and cut it and throw it on that nice USB hard drive. This again is a 200 gig hard drive, solid state, fairly fast. I'll also talk about a little bit of tips on this thing in a minute after I paste 3 of these in there. So this is a non-compressed tar file, tape archive. Now I'm going to talk about compression. So compression, you can think about a 7-zip file, for instance. I'll call this one downloads 2. This will actually compress those 5 items. Okay, this will take a second or two. It all depends on how many files that you picked, and more importantly, it should have compressed all of them. So I'm going to cut this and throw that on here, and then we will pick the last set and do the same. So I'm going to, in this case, use zip. Zip is very popular, been around for many years. You can also think about this if you came from the Microsoft world. Zip was also used there and also in your Macs, Apple Macs. Download 3, I think, is what we're going to call this one. And we are going to cut that and throw that on the... All right, so let's first compare the size of the files. I'm going to first right-click and open up the properties for this tar file. Tape archive is what tar stands for, one more time. So I'm going to go with Sam's home folder. Sam is our user for today, and right-click on downloads, because this tape archive or tar file or tar box, tar box is what I'm calling it, came from this folder here. And that folder is roughly 69 megabytes, 68,963 and change. This one here is 69,120 and change. Well, actually no change, but 69,120, which is bigger than 68,963. So this actually is bigger than the actual folder itself. So yes, a tar file does not compress. So this is actually slightly bigger, not by much though. If you round it off to MIB format, then it's 65.8, 65.9. Just wanted to point that out before we get going here. So it's not compressing. This, on the other hand, I will open up all 3 for properties, and we're going to compare these 3. So again, starting with tar, which is not compressed, is 69 and 120. We'll just call that 69 megabytes. How's that? This one is 49 and this one's 50. So as far as the smallest box, 7Z is the smallest, and that's compressed with 7-zip. This one is compressed with zip. So far, so good. Tar is not compressed. These 2 are. Size of the actual file, 60, 69, 49, and 50. Now let me talk about this drive itself. Whatever tool you use to format your USB storage devices, this one happens to be formatted with FAT32, File Allocation Table 32. GNOME Disk Utility is what I used. You can find it in Synaptic Package Manager. So since I formatted that with FAT32 or File Allocation Table 32 instead of extension 4, I can view that not only on this Linux machine, but also on Microsoft Windows and Macs. I also don't have to worry about permissions. If you decide to format that with extension 4, you have to worry about the permissions on the other computer, and more importantly also, extension 4 is not viewable on Microsoft Windows or Macs. FAT32 is though. Now, depending on what kind of files you deposit on these hard drives or USB sticks, it all depends on the other machine, how they can view them. Now, I think tar files can be viewed easily on my, no Windows 11 can view that, because my Windows 11 can see this, and easily see zip. I don't remember if 7Z is viewable or not. If not, you can download tools on your other foreign operating systems to view these things. Does that make sense? All right, with just using the tar box, I'm not obligated to extract all of them on the other machine. So if this was a Microsoft machine or another Debian 12 system, I'm not obligated to extract all of them. I can just do one. I can even extract it on the actual drive or the desktop of the other system. So I will pull out this PDF and just drop it there as an example. And then I'll open it. And then just let me make it smaller on the fly here. It's just a dartboard manual. But more importantly, I'm going to use Alt and F4. You can drag these files either in here, which is currently on the drive itself, or you can drag it on the desktop, the current computer you're working with. And then depending on what kind of file type it is, see, PDFs are universal, so are JPEGs. You really don't, in most cases, don't need any tools to open these things. It's pulling them out of the box that you may have, depending on the operating system, of course. But like I said, most modern file managers can deal with most of these. Okay? So let's go take a look at the file types of these three. So folders have, and I have, subfolders in here, of course. But joint photographic group, what do we know about JPEGs? Well, joint photographic group file types are found on your digital cameras. Standalone digital cameras or the digital cameras built into your smartphones. I don't care if it's an Android or an iPhone. Most of the time they save in JPEG formats. JPEG is inherently compressed. So compressing a single image sometimes is not worth it. But I will show you the difference anyways. Right-click, create an archive. I'll use 7-zip on the first pass, and I'll just leave the default name. And then I'll do this again. And we will gonna use the old zip. Well, again, zip has been around for many years. Let's compare the three properties of all three. Okay, so if you don't know too much about Modern File Manager for Linux, if you have a digital photo, for instance, that has other digital information besides displaying a thumbnail and the actual image, like pertinent information like what kind of camera models, it will also display those. That was taken with an iPhone 12, an Apple iPhone 12. The image size is right here, date was taken, aperture, metering, all that good stuff. Now let's talk about the file size. I'm only going to use the front end. 5.5 MB, 5.5 MB, 5.5 MB. Is this image worth compressing? Probably not. Probably not. Two different formats, 7Z and zip, really didn't achieve much for me. So in this essence, I would probably just straight copy this over to the USB connected storage device. It doesn't matter if it's a thumb drive or a USB connected hard drive. All right. Let's go back to Sam's folder. Now, archiving using tar, tape archive, is very powerful and very fast also. You remember when I did this earlier, this is 300, almost 400 megabytes. I'm going to leave this in here and do this again with all the files in here. In addition to that additional 400. Control A. Right click. Create archive. This time tar using just backups.tar. Leave it alone. How quickly did I just do that? Well, let's take a peek at this size. That's almost a gigabyte that I just crammed into this box in less than 2 seconds. Yes, my drive is a solid state drive, and a lot of the drives nowadays are fast. So if you're using a spinning hard drive, your mileage will vary, but more importantly, you can see how fast it did this. Now I'm going to copy this over to the USB connected hard drive. And then I'm going to tell you how this is connected after I do the paste. It's finished. That was 842 megabytes I just transferred onto that drive. All right, let me talk a little bit about how you connect your storage devices. Now, I'm using a tower computer. Some of you folks may be using laptops. My tower computer has USB ports in the front and also in the back. The back of my computer has a motherboard, obviously, but more importantly, it has ports coming out of the back of the motherboard. And those are the ports that I'm using here on this USB connected hard drive, USB 3. That is how I was able to transfer that so quickly. Solid state drive, USB 3. If you're using a USB 2 stick or USB 3 stick, they're inherently a lot slower. And when you plug them in the front ports of your computer, they could also be very slow compared to the back ports on the back of the motherboard. Just a little tip. You can see that I transferred this over very quickly to this USB connected hard drive. Again, this tar box is the same thing. It's a complete copy of my home folder or Sam's home folder. Every single folder is in here, including the backup of the backup, which was almost 400 megabytes. So, one more time, folks, when you are making backups, you can certainly install all kinds of applications or programs that possibly use rsync, and like Lucky Backup or something like that. You can also use grsync. You can download grsync, and you can also use script files to make backups. I do have lots of videos on my YouTube site. So one more time, some things may not be worth compressing. I'll delete these two. And would this text file be worth compressing? 5875? Probably not. However, it could be part of a group. If it is, inside of a folder, for instance, then it might be worth compressing if you're doing all of them. Okay. I'm going to use Alt and F4. And one more time, hopefully you subscribe to Linux for Seniors. I have lots of videos for you to watch. Thank you for watching.